Welcome in to Greenville Grit, Greenville residents in touch on 103.7 WTIB. This is the local show that keeps you connected and in touch with the issues that affect what's happening in your community. Greenville Grit is sponsored by Ribeyes, Kid Construction, and Greenville Toyota. Now, here are your hosts for Greenville Grit, Terry Williams and Michael Overton.
Welcome to the Greenville Grit. I am Michael Overton, along with my co-host Dennis Mitchell. He's Terry had the day off today. She had to go somewhere. So Dennis, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, I'm usually sitting on that side.
I know it's I almost called you Terry just because I'm so used to looking to the right and seeing Terry. But yeah, you sure do. To my left is Interim Police Chief Ted Sauls. Ted, welcome to the show
Thanks
today.
for having me. Glad to be with you.
Look forward to talking to you, kind of giving the public an update of since you're in your interim role, what's going on in the Greenville Police Department, and some of the things that our former police chief had started, where we're at on that, and some of the things you're looking to do. We're going to take a 2-minute commercial break in a second. We've got to thank the sponsors first. Thank you, Ribeyes Steakhouse. Looking for a good steak, good baked potato, and a good salad bar. Go see Ribeyes at the corner of Arlington and Fire Tower Road, as well as a location in Williamston. Almost said Wilmington. They might have one down there. I don't think they do.
Snow Hill.
Snow Hill.
Yes.
That's your part of the world,
Absolutely.
isn't it? There you go. Also, got to thank the Overton Group, real estate professionals serving all of Eastern North Carolina. If you're looking for commercial real estate leasing, sales, business brokers, property management. Kid Construction Group, the Green Builder. KCGBuildGreen.com. You can find them on Facebook or on the web for rehab or new construction. They build green and they build beautiful homes. They're a Parade of Homes winner. Also, Greenville Toyota. Thank you, Craig Goes, for supporting us since the beginning. Looking for a new Toyota Scion vehicle or new used car, go see Craig Goes and the Greenville Toyota team at greenvilletoyota.com. Across from Fresh Market on Memorial Drive or at 321-3000. We're going to take a 2-minute commercial break. We'll come right back and we'll start talking with the police chief.
Welcome back to the Greenville Grit. Of course, it's me and Michael Overton up here with...
Who's me?
Dennis. Me, Dennis. Everyone knows me.
Oh, my goodness. It just went downhill, Ted.
Dennis and Michael Overton, Dennis being myself. And we're up here with the interim police chief, Ted Sauls. This is his second time becoming interim police chief. So welcome to the show.
But the first time on the Grit.
That first time on the Grit, second time interim chief. Thank you very much.
And we're not going to go easy on you, so don't think that.
Don't do it. Don't do it. I got my thick skin on.
Oh, so let's start off by telling us a little bit about where we at as far as safety in Greenville.
Well, you will remember, Dennis, we talked at length, you and I personally, about perception and how things look, and that really is what drives a lot of how people feel about an area. Greenville is a media hub, so a lot of what we do is in the public eye. A lot of our outlets are housed here. It's easy for them to have access to us, and I think for that reason, people see Greenville a lot in the news and in print. I would tell you that our crime rate has been a pleasure to watch over the last 5 or 6 months. When we finished up 2014, when Chief Aiden was still here, we were down about 6%, and now for the past 3 months, we're down about 25%. And we try not to brag about it because it's very easy for it to go back up. It's peaks and valleys, and right now we're in a valley, we're in a low, and we're using that opportunity to capitalize on some other issues and police some other areas. So I would say that the perception now has started to change, and people are starting to see that a lot of our programs are working, and we're combating their issues, the things they're bringing to our attention.
I think so too, Michael. I mean, I remember, I think the first time I ran for city council, crime was like the number one issue. But I think now, I mean, as far as me, I feel very safe in Greenville.
Yeah.
How about you?
I agree with you. I know, and part of that is getting the facts. You can have the perception issue because it was talked about. Everyone talks about it. But I think a lot of city leaders have gotten out over the last year and a half, and myself, you being two of us, and Jim Blunt, other guys, Thomas Taft, and we're talking about what's really the case here. If you look at our downtown area, everyone thought was just so horrible. Well, before 10 p.m., it's probably one of the safer places in the city. And I know one of the things I wanted to ask you about, Ted, is with Hassan Aiden, when he came in and put a lot of things in place and changed a lot of things. One of the things that I always complimented him on, and hopefully you're continuing, is knowing some of the officers that you work with, spoke very highly of him, and just a a good feeling of working there. Before it wasn't as fun. They enjoy their job now. It's more workplace optimism, I guess, is the way to put it. Not that it's not an easy job, and it's frankly a thankless job at times.
It's not, and you have to. People that choose this career really want to do it. If they don't, they usually find out really quick it's not for them, and they'll let us know, hey, this was not the right career choice. I'm going to go try something else. The chief, when he got here, saw it for what it was, that there was a couple of minor things that could be changed that just make life easier and take the pressure off. And also, he allowed us to put into place many of the things that we had been looking to do anyway. He showed us, and I've said it more than once, and I would say it if he was standing here with us today, he was a brilliant criminologist. He understands the business extremely well. And taught us a lot in that regard, and showed us how to take some of our programs and tweak them and use our data better and use our resources better and allow the officers to make some decisions on their own instead of being boxed into a little small way of thinking. And I think when you allow people to do that, you get their full value, and they know they're appreciated more, and that breeds a happier environment.
So how do we continue that to make sure we don't go back into old ways? If you have someone like him, you said he was a good criminologist, how do we continue to look at ways outside of Greenville or people that do fantastic jobs all across the nation, best practices, bringing them here and continuing to look for better ways of policing and continuing to try to reduce that crime?
My grandfather had a saying when we were building houses, Michael, that it takes money to make money. And it takes exposure to bring those things back that you're talking about. It takes going out of Greenville. It takes traveling. Some of those things oftentimes can be seen as extravagant, but as long as they're managed by my level, the city manager's level, and we know what we're sending people to, and then they bring those concepts back and we try them, that's when it starts to make a difference. You see it in every line of work. If you're into real estate, you're going to real estate conferences. If you're on a city council, you go to events where you learn about what other councils are doing. If you don't do that as a police department, you fall behind nationally. Chief Aiden really exposed us to the national scene through the Police Executives Research Forum. That's known as PERF to us, and the International Association of Chiefs of Police, which is where he works now. Those organizations stay in tune with what the hot topics are nationally, and he allowed us to attend those sessions and learn those topics and bring that back. An example of that, and that you probably saw within the last couple of weeks, where we had the issue with the heroin overdoses and we used Narcan. We actually were not 4 or 5 months ago sitting in Washington, D.C. at a PERF symposium discussion panel, and that was the topic. That was what we were there to hear about, is what was going on nationally. Within 2 months of returning from that, we had our Narcan, everybody was trained, and within 2 months of that, we were administering it. Our fire department's been doing that since the 90s, using that drug to save lives. As law enforcement, we were not exposed to it. But that is a key example of how having our eyes open to what's going on and what others are doing made Greenville better and safer.
And that's very good. I mean, that I was very pleased when I saw that story on the news that our officer was able to step in and do something like that. Because I mean that's something. So I guess there's so many different things that you can be trained on, but to actually have that specific training and to have an incident like that happen in Greenville and be prepared for it.
How many was it? 4 or 5?
4 for us. There were many more we attended, and the fire department was there at the same time. So naturally, if we arrive at the same time they do, they're going to take the lead on that. Yeah,
that was amazing. Let's talk about some of the hot spots. These might not be the true hot spots, but the perception hot spots. How are perception-wise? I mean, how are we doing with our safety efforts downtown West Greenville and the University neighborhood area? Those are 3 areas that people talk about the most. But I know they may not be the true hot spots, but how are we doing in those areas?
I'll tell you that. Let's take the neighborhood, the university neighborhood first. As you know, when we typically see issues around times when there's the students are absent, gone for holidays, returning in terms of larcenies, break-ins, and things of that nature. Through a couple of initiatives we implemented during those phases this year, over the holidays and during these breaks like spring break, we saw almost none. We really enjoyed their return not coming back home to their homes broken into. So that's a matter of the unit that works over there, predominantly our Center City unit, stepping up their game and saying, okay, people are gone, we got to step up.
So patrolling more or
patrolling more. We actually during that time we do some special operations where we're doing surveillance, where we're watching places, where we're looking at locations that are likely to have problems. It's not always going to be kind of out in your face on marked cars. You know, that's the nature of our business as police officers. Sometimes we have to sneak around to catch those who are sneaking around, and we implemented some of those tactics, and we're very fruitful with that. ECU, a lot of times will have larcenies of bicycles where students are, you know, their bicycle chains are cut and locks are cut. We actually had a operation designed just to deal with that, and we caught several juveniles that were participating in stealing those bicycles. So when you go out to do it and then you're fruitful at it, it makes you say, okay, we had that right. That's what where we should have been. West Greenville, I have, in going on 19 years now, I've seen a lot of change in that area. I was just on Fleming Street and Bancroft Street yesterday looking at the new development that the city partnered with GHA, and everybody is kind of coming together on. That place is going to look completely different than what I remember. The perception was always that West Greenville was crime-ridden, and I really think, and I would hope people would acknowledge that that portion of town has really turned around. I see a marked difference in that part of town. As you know, we've had 2 homicides this year, and
that was all pretty close together, wasn't it?
They were in the same general area, and they were in the west side of our, what we would consider West Greenville, in that zone. Isolated incidents. The second one is still under investigation. The first one, they're still technically both under investigation, but we very quickly were able to establish in both of them what direction we needed to go. And I think we'll bring those to a good resolution really quick. And then, you know, there's a couple of other key areas too that, as you know, we've had downtown. Michael, you spoke earlier about the perception. One incident downtown is kind of really what changed the perception of downtown. And it took a lot of effort to turn that perception around. That was the
drive-by from 3-4 years?
2009, I believe.
Yeah, has it been 6 years?
Yeah, it's been a while. And but look at it now. You know, it took those growing pains. It took us going through that back and forth, what's right and what's wrong. But we've made a marked improvement in all those, I believe.
Lighting has been a focus too. I'm assuming you guys are you still looking for dark spots in the city? Or?
All the time. All the time. And in fact, we're actually under initiative right now with Public Works to upgrade additional lighting. We're looking at not just neighborhood lighting in terms of changing the old yellow gas lights to LEDs, which are brighter and more energy efficient, but we're also looking at some of our thoroughfares where we've had pedestrians struck by vehicles in extremely dark locations. So we're studying those as well.
Wow.
I mean, I think we just continue to innovate our police practices. When we talk about the Narcan just now, I remember a few years ago where you had the operation in University neighborhood where y'all was actually undercover and caught a robbery that was about to take place before it happened.
That's right.
And then also I tell people too, for criminals, Greenville is not a good place to do crime. I mean, just my perception is that when somebody commits a crime within 48 hours, I mean, they seem to be behind bars, or we got a suspect that we're looking for. I mean, is that truly what's going on? Do we have a good rate, I guess, of catching criminals pretty quickly?
Without a shadow of a doubt. We've had a perf I was telling you about earlier come in and look at our Criminal Investigations Bureau for us and look at the efficiency and do we have the right number of people in the right places. And we found out that our clearance rate on our cases is well above the national average, which was really exciting when you see that the detectives are solving cases at kind of an unprecedented rate. That was the first. The second was the implementation of what we call VCAT, VCAT, Violent Criminal Apprehension Team. And we use people that are in existing assignments, and when we need to find somebody, we bring these forces to bear. And they are, the men and women on that unit are phenomenal at what they do. We also have some outside resources we're able to reach out to, like the U.S. Marshals. We have a task force officer with them, with the Drug Enforcement Administration. You bring those forces to bear when you're looking for somebody, then it's not as hard to find as we at once maybe thought. And they are, like you said, 48 hours is a good one to look at, Dennis, but it may not be exactly 2 days. Sometimes it's 3 or 4, but they are on it. And when they come to me and say we can't find him, I start to think, we're not going to find him then. And then we have to try other means. Sometimes it's out of state, and we have to go out of state to get them. But they are truly making a dent. a real marked improvement in that.
And then also the way you guys employ technology. I mean, someone to commit a crime in a parking lot or in a store. I mean, immediately we have access to the suspect, and it's sent out through all the media alerts, Facebook, Twitter, and I mean that probably helps solve a lot of crime too.
It does. With when Miss Kristen Hunter came on board as our new public information officer, she's kind of opened our eyes to Twitter and Facebook, and she'll get me if I get it wrong, Instagram or whichever one
I have
she
no
uses.
idea.
I don't know. I said I gave that the other day to the manager, I believe it was. She asked what we were using, and I got it all wrong, and Kristen corrected me. So, but it's out there, and we are truly trying to be as transparent as we can. I think it's disappointing at times when citizens say that we're not, because we really are. I can tell you in my time with the city, we are more transparent than we have ever been. I do my best to return all the phone calls I can personally, because everybody wants to talk to the chief.
Hey, he called me back. I was pretty impressed.
Exactly. And that gets difficult. It's very hard to do. And if that ever happens, I like to apologize up front if I can't return your call. But that's what we have really sharp zone commanders for, really sharp captains for. There's people in those places that I 100% trust to make decisions in my absence. And I would hope that when we get our new chief in pocket that he or she looks at it the same way, because they're very, very good staff and excellent officers.
Well, you led me to two questions, and the first would be, and you mentioned about the transparency, building that trust. And I know across the nation that, especially over the last year since the deal in Missouri took place, how do you continue some of the things that Chief Aiden started to continue to build trust in the neighborhoods? I know you have the neighborhood associations, but how do you keep going in that way? Because I think that has made a huge impact, and it probably has had an impact on the crime rate overall.
Absolutely, and I think every time I've had an opportunity to present our stats from last year, one of the bullets that's in that presentation is that our homicide rate is where it's at. It was this past year. We only had 4 because citizens are not tolerating that type of activity in their neighborhoods. Every time, to answer your question, we get an opportunity to speak, to be present, to be a partner, we try our best to be there. I think that's key, because it can't always be me, but it can be somebody. I usually, if the scheduling is right, we can have somebody at your event. I missed an event this past weekend on Sunday. I just could not make it to. I really wanted to, and we're at the point now where it's bothersome when you miss those events, because you're like, man, I really would have liked to have been present for that. But family time and personal obligations take away as well in terms of availability. The main thing is that every time we're given the opportunity to talk, to present, and to if nothing else, mingle with our citizens, we try our best to be there. And I think it's that and the just open, honest dialogue, and letting people know there will be times when I can't tell you the specifics, because it may be part of an investigation, a personnel investigation, a criminal matter. But when the time's right and I can tell you, I'll be glad to share it. And I think when people really see that works, and you're always going to have those who probably are not going to trust. But I can tell you that in Greenville, during these tough times, we have received more supporting phone calls, more people stopping by our department and saying thank you than I've seen in a really long time. So that tells me that we must be on the right topics.
Well, I think a lot of things were put in place over the last 3-4 years, or that are paying dividends now. So what are you, as interim police chief, and I hate that you got that interim in front of your name, but I understand completely where you're coming from with that. And
I tried
one
to
day
push
you'll
to become chief last time.
He did.
Well, and I completely respect that. But what are you doing? Are you in maintenance mode, or are you moving forward and implementing your own plans of action?
Plans of action, not necessarily. Maintenance mode, definitely not. We're going to stay the course, yes, but we don't know exactly how long it'll be before we get a chief. So we have to continue to push forward. We meet regularly, daily, with different units to tweak and decide what we need to change on various units. Maybe not making personnel reassignments, we're leaving that for the new chief to do. But if it's a focus change, if I need to change the focus of Unit A to address a problem, then we're doing that on a regular basis.
And where are we at on the police chief search? Do you know?
It closes unless something changes on April the 10th. So they'll stop taking applications. I would guess maybe a month or so to weed through the applications and the resumes, and then maybe another month to set the process up, another month to run it. So I'm thinking, and I've been telling people, maybe August July, August.
And we're using the organization that Chief Hayden went to.
That's correct.
To help us in the search? Or
That's right. And
are they doing the search for us?
Well, it's not uncommon to reach out to an outside entity like that, and they will actually do all of the searching. They'll do the advertising. They'll run the process. All along those steps, the manager's involved. The manager has, that direct nexus to IACP, but this is that professional organization running it, making sure that it's done fairly, making sure that it is valid. A valid process is really important when you're hiring a department head.
Awesome. Well, I think we might take our second commercial break, Dennis. We'll come back. We'll still have about 5 minutes to wrap it up, but we'll be back in 2 minutes and continue our conversation with Police Chief Ted Sauls. Welcome back to the Greenville Grit. I'm Michael Overton, along with my co-host Dennis Mitchell and Interim Police Chief Ted Sauls. Just a little history about me and you. Met in college at East Carolina University, and we were scuba diving partners for the last, I think, our senior year.
It was maybe latter part of junior, or it might have been senior year.
Took a van, rode in a van all the way down to the river.
We've got to start that
I'll
back.
have to pick on that. That was Crystal. Was it Crystal? Jenny Springs.
Jenny Springs, Florida.
And down in Florida.
Yep.
Spent a week down there scuba training and having to stay in a tent with this guy.
That's one of those little known facts you don't know about people. I would have never thought Chief Sauls had been a scuba diver.
He was very good. He was a great partner.
It's an awesome sport. We really need to start it back.
Yeah, well, we talked about that the other day. But we got about 5 minutes left in the show, Dennis. One thing I want to bring up, and I know you had one more thing, was focused deterrence. Again, for people who may be hearing this for the first time, give a very brief description of what it is. And I think you guys just did your second one.
Correct. So it's long and short, just exactly what it says. We pick offenders to focus on. The first round, we had 8 offenders, and they were some of our most violent, some of our most, I hate to use the word notorious, but well-known offenders. We always have the cliche, if we could just save one. We've always said that. Well, in the real world that we work in, that is actually true. And in our first phase, we have an offender who was called in on the first phase and has not reoffended to this day. He is holding down a job. He is now making contributions to the general public, to his family, and most importantly to himself. And he's one of the ones, and I'll admit, if he was standing here, I'd tell him that I would have not figured would have made it, and he made it. So that was the first success.
So how about the other 7 that were on there?
6 of those, the 7th one I can't speak to. 6 of those violated and are either in or awaiting prison terms, as promised.
Wow.
So when you call them in, the panel tells them, these are the prohibited offenses. You cannot do these things any longer. I cannot focus on every member of the general public, but I can focus on you. And that's the message we give them.
Because you know who they are.
Absolutely.
I mean, you know who the repeat offenders are.
And we let them know that we know. But we also offer them, the most important piece of the puzzle is offering them resources and help, offering them ability to train for jobs, to have someone teach them how to interview, have someone help them get a job, have somebody work with them on getting back in school, whatever it is, home life. We'll offer a plethora of things to them if they would just take us up on it. This last group had 12 offenders, and it's very early on, so I can't tell you where we are on that yet, other than to tell you that within 2 days of the call-in, we had more than one offender calling us and saying, thank you for reaching out. I really want to take you up on some of those offers. What do I do next? So if we end up out of this one with just one, that'll be 2 successes, and we'll keep right on going.
Well, the good thing is, and I believe the agreement from what Chief Hayden told us was they basically give up several things when they sit in that room with you guys, and no, was it a no parole? Was that one of the things you talked about? Or
what you would have heard him mention is that if they violate, the full forces are brought to bear. The district attorney is going to not look for a plea deal. They're going to look for maximum sentences. The judges know that not to be lenient because these are not people that need to be given that olive branch. They've already been handed it, and they smacked it away. So it's not so much that it's a non-parole situation. Now, if they're a federal probation, on federal probation, I should say, then their time could be federal, which is day for day. But what happens is the district attorney has the option to work with the assistant U.S. attorney to make the cases federal and take them into the federal system. When that occurs, if you get 8 years, you will serve every day of the 8 years. There's no early parole. So that's what you would have heard him mention.
And I believe it's you guys, the Greenville Police Department, all of the police departments within the county and the Sheriff's Department.
Correct.
The district attorney, I believe he said the SBI or the
SBI, FBI, the probation office, the ATF.
And they're all in one room together.
Everybody.
That has got to be one intimidating room.
Yes, it does.
We had a meeting upstairs, the bond committee meeting, the night of your first one. And I come in the meeting, and there's armed guards everywhere. I'm like, well, we're definitely safe tonight. But and Chief had said, why don't you come over afterwards? I said, there's no way I am showing my face in that room.
Right.
I'm not going to be a marked man after that one.
No.
That's good to hear that you guys have had a successful one.
Excellent program. Sergeant Joe Friday has handles that for us, and it's going well. We'll keep that alive.
Dennis, really quickly, got about a minute and a half.
Well, one thing I want to say is, I think things are going very well in Greenville. Like I said, I feel safe. I think the community at large feels safer. I think the perception is changing. We see our police officers out there. They're in our neighborhood associations. We just see them around a lot. And I said it before. I mean, one of the good things about this, normally when you have a department head leave, you're kind of nervous. You got a lot of things going on. Chief Sauls was prepared to be police chief, in my view, the first time. And he's prepared to be it now. So I think Greenville's in good hands. So no matter how long it takes us to find a police chief, I think we're going to continue the course and also innovate ourselves and be a better department. So thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. I appreciate that.
Well, Chief Sauls, thank you for coming on and spending this time with us. As always, we have to thank the sponsors again for being on and just supporting our show and allowing us to be here. So thank you, Greenville Toyota, Kidd Construction Group, the Overton Group, and Ribeye Steakhouse. You can find us on 6:30 tonight, obviously, but also Friday night at 6:30, Saturday morning at 9:30 on Cable 7. Also the YouTube, type up Greenville Grit. Until next time, we will see you later.